cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make.
Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave.
Good morning. Hey, Eggsy. 30 minutes ago, you jumped right in on the preview chat. Didn't see you. All right, I'm going to turn this on. I'm busy. So, this.
Bongino.
All right. How do you start today's show? No, I howl. Jasmine's sitting there kind of laughing. Like, what do you say? Hey, guys, good morning. Well, let me give you a weekend update. Quite the weekend update. Kind of probably the most interesting weekend update ever. And the interesting thing about this weekend update is producer Jim, at least on the radio show, is not going to have to run the let's take a brief interlude into Dan's personal life, because my personal life is no longer personal. Folks, I'm sure by now you've heard the news. Wait, let me just, do I have it? Oh, no, I already took it. Sorry. Someone gave me the man card, gave me like an actual man card one day. Like it's a little, looks like a credit card, kind of a joke, obviously. So let me just turn that in right now because this may be a little bit emotional, and let me apologize in advance. I was home last night, and
said he was talking to you about filling out paperwork.
I'm sitting there. I was watching a show. I don't even know what I was watching. Food That Built America or something like that. And I was falling asleep because it had been a really long day. Now you know why. And now some of you kind of understand why the show had a different tone over the last couple of weeks. And I got a call from the president, and he couldn't have been nicer. And I obviously keep the contents of it between us, but I think you get the gist about what it was about. And kind of broke down a bit because it was, this is now real. So President Attorney General Bondi and now Director, gosh, that sounds good to say, FBI Director Akash Patel offered this role I expressed an interest in. And ladies and gentlemen, I told you, you see, it's hard for me. I'm going to accept the role proudly as the Deputy Director of the number 2 spot at the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Folks, it's a lot to walk away from. I will tell you everything what happened within reason, and then I got a show to do, and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen with the show. So it's going to be a pretty wild ride today. Man, do we have a lot to talk about. I'm going to play for you in the beginning, too, a speech I gave that someone sent to me from 11 years ago. And you'll see why I decided to make this decision. So a lot to do today. Thank you so much for kind of a big audience here right away out of the shoot. So thank you very much. I love you guys. And Bongino Army out there, I hope you understand. I got a couple of negative comments. You know, Dan, you should have let us know. I hope you understand about this. This is not you do not ever get ahead of the President of the United States, the Attorney General, and the Director of the FBI. You don't do that. Not when you take positions like that. It's not the right thing to do. So now you understand. Today's show sponsored by Beam. Man, did I sleep much last night? Go to shopbeam.com/Bongino. Use code Bongino for 47% off your order. Today's show also brought to you by Patriot Mobile. We won the election. The fight to restore this great nation is only beginning. Now's the time to take a stand, and Patriot Mobile's leading the charge. They're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. Patriot Mobile offers a way to vote with your wallet without compromising on quality or convenience. Patriot Mobile isn't just about providing exceptional cell phone service. It's a call to action to defend our rights and freedoms. With Patriot Mobile, you'll get outstanding nationwide coverage because they operate on all 3 major networks. If you have cell phone service today, you can get cell phone service with Patriot Mobile with a coverage guarantee. The difference is, every dollar you spend with Patriot Mobile supports a company who believes in the First and Second Amendments, the sanctity of life, our veterans, and first responders. Switching's easy. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their 100% U.S.-based customer support team will help you find the perfect plan. So right now, go to patriotmobile.com/Dan or call 972-PATRIOT and get a free month of service with promo code Dan. Switch to Patriot Mobile today and defend freedom with every call and text you make. Visit patriotmobile.com/Dan or call 972-PATRIOT. All right, fellas, little bell for me. I want to play this for you first because the Bongino Army out there and all of our supporters, you guys and ladies out there have been amazing. And one of you sent this to me, and a friend of mine sent it to me as well. And I gave this speech at the Heritage Foundation 11 years ago. And it was about good people stepping up. Not just me. It's not about me. It's about a bigger vision. I want you to listen. It's about a minute and a half of it, but it's worth your time. Check this out. We can fix it though, folks. And I think it's going to take some good, passionate people going forward. And I think it's going to take more people to speak out. I think right now there's a crisis of internal leadership. I think people during a recession are afraid to leave, but I speak to people all the time on my cell phone, on the inside, who are just as frustrated as I am, whether from the military or anywhere else. And I think it's going to take just a tidal wave of people speaking out to really create some effective change. This is really hard for me, folks. I hope you understand. We spent a long time building this. Me, my wife, Guy, Michael, Justin, Jasmine, Evita. My wife and I started doing this show, and it started in a basement. It was me, Joe, and Paula. That was it. We started doing the show, and Paula was putting together show clips for me. We never expected it to become this massive live stream and podcast and radio show. We never expected it. I knew you guys were going to be there for us. So to walk away from it.
It's emotional.
Yeah, it's not easy. And yeah, like money and all that other crap, that doesn't gives a damn about any of that stuff. We'll figure that out later. But I'm not going to tell you as an audience what's been one of our just bedrock principles of this Bongino army out there, and this people this massive audience we've had. What's one of the bedrock principles, right? The do matters. We've talked about the do. You can talk all you want. I tell you all the time, I don't feel like I have a real job. I don't feel like. I feel like you guys are the ones out there getting your hands dirty. The truckers, the cops, the pilots, the architects, the men and women in our military. I appreciate everything, but if the do matters, I'm not going to sit here as a commentator, talking head, whatever dopey title we have. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the do matters and then sit on my ass when an opportunity comes to do the right thing and not only talk about everything we wanted to change, but actually change it. There are a lot of people listening today, and I hope you understand that. I want to address something too. I know, New York Times and others, of course, are all of the attack pieces start already, which is fascinating from these two who were on the wrong side of the truth when it came to the collusion hoax and others. I don't think they understand what it's like to commit to service, not partisan service, but service. I get it if you were a political opponent of mine that has been involved with proudly celebrating a weaponized justice system, how you don't understand how a guy like me who discusses partisan content in an opinion show can go and do a unquestionably nonpartisan job. I'm going to ask you a simple question. Have you seen what I did before I came here? I'm committed to service. People play different roles in their lives. People are dads. People are soccer coaches. People are cops and military officers and military enlisted people. People are carpenters. People are plumbers. We play different roles in our life, and each one requires a different skill set. I've been there. I know what this is like. And it's time for me to step up. Folks, I have to thank my family first, though. Most of you know Paula. Paula's been with me a long time. Folks, we met, I don't know if you know the story. It's certainly not my autobiography today, but we met just a couple of weeks before 9/11. I mean, an actual couple of weeks, like 2 weeks before 9/11. My second date hadn't even happened with Paula, and she worked at 120 Broadway, which is the building that looks right into the World Trade Center right there. She worked for a company at the time called SIA.
Good shit. I'm checking you out.
The 9/11 attacks happened. I had only been on one date with her. We barely knew each other, but I knew I was in love. So I called her, and she didn't answer the phone. I thought she was dead. I did. I panicked. I thought she was dead. I couldn't believe it. I said, I just met this woman. Well, it turned out we'd just been on one date, and she was actually in Nevada. Her mom lived in Centennial Hills in Nevada, actually Summerlin, I think, back then. And she was out in Nevada. I couldn't believe she was alive. But we met 2 weeks before the most devastating terror attack, one of them in American history. That was an event we all scarred us forever. I was an agent watching that. We've been through a lot together. We've been through the Secret Service. We've been through the president's detail. We've been through cancer. We've been through some health crises with her. We have 2 beautiful daughters, one in college and one younger one still in grammar school. We've been through 3 runs for political office. We've been through the launch of a podcast 11 years ago, and everybody laughed at us. They're not laughing now. They did. They actually laughed at us. Oh, podcast? That's cute. What happened? Can't get a real show? We lived through all of that. We spent our last $10,000 on a microphone and some mixers in the basement of our house in Maryland.
Took me out to dinner and was trying to sway me. And I'm like, Scott,
Paul has always been willing to take a chance.
I'm not the grasshopper. I'm not going to walk away.
Oh,
like, let me at least see what things are.
She said on her first date that she knew I was something special, which I didn't think I was
You reply?
special. But I guess she did. She's been busting her ass all weekend. Why? Because there's going to be a major transition. It's not going to be the last show, but we've only got a few more left with you. So obviously we're going to be working with a team of people to make this transition from me, political commentator Dan, to Deputy Director of the FBI Dan. Those are different roles, require different skills. Skills I have and have used before and I plan to use again.
I can't wait. I hope they got you down.
It's going to hurt to leave.
Right. At least for a while.
I'll discuss over the course of the coming days. I'll be with you for a little bit longer on radio and on my show. I will discuss exactly what's going to happen.
For some reason, my chat didn't open
Evita
up on
or
Rumble. Did you guys see
Haley's
it?
content at all. My wife has been running the business for a long time. I don't get involved with the business at all. I do the talking. But I want to ask you, who's next? Who's next? This isn't just about me, folks. The do matters. Who's next? You know, I said last week, and a couple of media critics commented, I said, we're all going to have to take it on the chin a little bit. Now, do you see what I meant? I never got in this for the money or notoriety. Listen, I enjoy making money and that I can impact people's lives and that people come out and say nice things to me as much as the next guy. But if you think that's why I got involved in this, running as a Republican in deep blue Maryland, my life of activism and my time in the Secret Service, if you think I get into the Secret Service to get rich, and you don't know me and you haven't seen the government salary scale.
Hey, Momo. Weird.
But I am going in this clear-eyed. Vision of President Trump, Attorney General Bondi, and Director Patel. I am going to do my job to implement that vision. And I can tell you right now, we are going to try our best. Every single thing I have in me, every single strand of DNA cell in my body is going to be dedicated towards keeping this homeland safe, no matter what. No matter what, that's my job.
Weird.
We're going to reestablish faith in this institution. The good people there doing their job, hitting the streets, developing sources. We'll have your back. We are going to reestablish faith in this institution. The FBI belongs to the American people. Doesn't belong to me.
Not working.
Doesn't belong to anyone else but the American people. But this is the honor of a lifetime, and it's a serious mission. And I plan on implementing that vision. Folks, there are a small number of people out there in the country right now dedicated to doing really bad things. It's not
It shows
the overwhelming majority of Americans are patriots that love this country and love their family. They love their jobs. They go to work every day, but there are a small number of really bad people out there who are planning on really bad things, from terrorists to narco traffickers, child sex rings, gang members. I'm going to tell you right now,
You won't let me
I'm not going to rest easy until we find as many of you as we can. Don't sleep. No, after today. That's my mission.
This is a much bigger deal than
Folks, of course, the Constitution matters. We're going to get back to the four corners of that document that guide us all as well. And I think you know from my history of covering content here that the primacy of that is really important. You understand that? It is the one thing that dictates all the rest of your actions, and that's the Constitution. Again, regarding the show, folks, going forward, I will tell you how we're going to wind my portion of the show down. And I'm just going to leave you with this before I get to some other content. And we've got a couple more. We've got some shows for you lined up. So I actually put a show together, even though this has been harder than I thought.
Fix this.
I didn't plan on this. I didn't plan on a lot of things. But I want you to know it is the honor of my lifetime. And I hope I'm making a plea to you all personally. I hope you're not angry or upset at me for making this decision. I knew it was the right thing to do, but there is a big cost, and I understand that. There's a chance when the mission's over that you guys all disappear and go somewhere else. Not going to lie to you, it's been on my mind for a long time. I hope not. I love you guys, but this is a mission I can't say no to.
I get so emotional. I love it.
Sorry, guys.
Chat just popped on.
JL Subs. Holy moly, Batman. We're so proud of you, Dan. We love you, Dan. I love you guys, too. I woke up this morning, I jumped in that cold plunge to kind of clear my head a little bit. And I get out of it. And I have to tell you, folks, this is very surreal. What an honor. What an honor. All right. Let me take a quick break. Did I melt down the Rumble chat? Thank you, guys. Michael senses I need a little emotional kind of. Hold on. Let me take a sip. You know, it's funny. Guy's been here the longest, and Guy will typically say, all right, you're like droning on too long. He didn't say that. That's interesting. Guy actually gave me a little leeway on that one. I appreciate that, Guy. You know how Guy is. Guy's the most cut and dried guy you've ever seen. All right, move on. No. Get to have you taken a field degrees yet? Last one, they'll promote me and push me right into a reading. You get to the spots. We got a show to do. So I appreciate that, Guy. Thank you. There. By the way, my team. So you know, because I know a lot of you have developed relationships with my crew through the chat and events and elsewhere. We love all you guys. My crew's not going anywhere. I'll explain more as the week goes on. Today, I just want to focus on this, some news, and I want to do a show for you because I don't have a lot left. The transition is going to be tough, but my crew's not going anywhere. I gave them the opportunity. I hope I'm not sharing inside information, guys, but I gave them the opportunity, and none of them took it. Justin was like a little, I don't know about him. Justin, no, I'm kidding. Justin was like, I don't know, I'm not so sure. No, he was all in. Justin was actually the first one. He's like, you kidding, bro? We're going to make this, we're going to work with Paula from now on. And it's probably a pretty easy transition because there isn't a transition. Paula's always run the place anyway. She has been the mastermind. I'm just the content guy. So thank you, guys. All right, let me take a quick break, and then we'll get to the show. So I told you be there, Wednesday. Hey, schedule's gotten crazy lately, especially over the past 2 weeks. I am a big fan of life hacks. You know, I love to stay healthy. Showing you my blood work over and over. Field of Greens, a delicious glass of Field of Greens daily is nutritional armor for your body. Each fruit and vegetable was doctor selected for a specific health benefit. There's a heart health group, lung and kidney groups, metabolism, even healthy weight. I love the energy I get with it, but most of all, I love the confidence I have. If I get a cheat day or something, you fall off your diet, can enjoy it guilt-free because Field of Greens, it's the nutrition my body needs daily. Only Field of Greens makes you the better health promise. Your doctor will take notice of your improved health or your money back. So let's get you started with a special discount. 20% off your first order. Just use code Dan at brickhousenutrition.com/Dan. That's code Dan at brickhousenutrition.com/Dan. Thank you, Brickhouse Nutrition and Field of Greens. Appreciate that. So, folks, the Monday winning coverage of the administration and their endless litany and cornucopia of W's and wins is just not stopping, to the point where I did not know. I'm obviously waiting on. I was waiting on the president, the attorney general, and the FBI director. It's their call when to make the decision. So, you know, the specific timeline, you have an idea, but I did not know. So I'm still putting together a show this weekend, and the winning. I hope, you know, most of you out there, I would guess, if you're listening to the show, you probably think this is a win. I appreciate it. It certainly was a win for me, and the fact that this is something I'm really looking forward to. But that we're not the only ones, folks. Mark Penn, who's a Democrat pollster, now, I don't care what you're hearing about the public polling. The public polling, people can cherry pick polls all they want. For every poll you tell me, well, voters are dissatisfied with this, and I've seen this all the time, you can pick another poll that voters are mostly liking what they're seeing. How do we know that? Because Mark Penn in a tweet put out those literal words. Voters are mostly, he's a Democrat pollster, are liking what they see in the first month of the new presidency. 57-43, voters say Trump's doing a better job than Biden in an advanced look at a poll coming out on Monday. Job approvals at 52, but closing the border, cutting waste are hugely popular. So is resetting merit as the prime hiring and contracting principle. They don't agree with everything being done. He cites the Gulf of America, which I haven't heard anybody really complaining about, but, people feel much better about the direction of the country and the economy. You know, it's Democrats are cratering down to 36% approval. It's going to be a big problem from them, obviously, moving forward. I wanted to address this, too. This is one of the reasons you have public frustration with taxpayer dollars being allocated to outfits with very little accountability when people are working in jobs and have been working at jobs where the bookkeeper, the accountant, or whoever it is, if you spend $1 at a gas station on a company card and you can't explain what it's for, they've had to account for every single dollar the entire time. Here, folks, let's look at this USAID article. USAID squandered this. Think about this. Think about the loss factor in this. New York Times, how USAID squandered billions in Haiti and around the globe. There were $2 billion in contracts and grants for Haiti-related work. Less than $50 million. That's 2%. Let me say that again. 2% of the $2 billion that was supposed to go to Haiti went to Haitian organizations or firms. Even went to the firms. By comparison, $1.3 billion. 56% has gone to firms located in or near the U.S. Capitol. Little wonder USAID is so threatened by the sudden scrutiny. Folks, there is a problem with third-party spending. If I've highlighted it once, I've highlighted it 1,000 times on this show. Milton Friedman has discussed this often. When the government takes taxpayer dollars from its citizens and spends money not even on itself, but on other people most of the time, on programs and giveaways and USAID, the cost or the quality don't matter. The cost doesn't matter because you're not buying anything with your money. So why would you care about the cost? But here's the kicker. The quality doesn't matter either because a large portion of the time you're not even buying anything for yourself. And when I say yourself, I mean, say waste in the Pentagon. No, they're buying things for themselves. No, they're not. It's not for them. It's for a military unit or something. It's not even for them. So not only you have a cost problem, but you have a quality problem as well. If you've not seen this Milton Friedman clip, we've been doing this show 11 years. You see, I can't even mention it. I'm gonna melt every time I say. I cannot believe we've been doing this 11 years. I can't.
Okay.
I cannot believe we've been doing this.
Well, we found out.
If you've been watching all 11 years,
14th,
you've seen this clip before by Freeman. It's worth your time.
Change their
Check
name
this
to
out.
Beacon.
Well, you know,
They have
you
new
can
owners,
spend your
and
own
they
money
went ahead and laid off 90 people.
on yourself.
While they're
And
retooling
when you
it
spend your own
and
money
say for
on
30
yourself,
years. So it's gonna
you're
be-
very careful of what you spend it on.
They said for at least
And make
they put a
sure
freeze
that you
for at
get
least
the
a
most
month.
for your dollar. You can spend your own money on somebody else. You give gifts to other people.
Adecco is a
You take
staffing
people out to dinner. And when you spend your own money on somebody else, you're
I'm
very
sorry?
careful that you don't spend too much. You try to keep down the amount you spend. But you don't worry very much about
I was.
what the other fellow's getting from it. You don't pay anything like as much
I don't.
attention to
You
the
said
gifts
it
you
was
buy
me.
for other
I'm
people
trying to understand.
as to the things you buy for yourself. Or you can spend
That
somebody
isn't what you
else's
said. You said you said.
as when you're spending
So
the
that's what I'm
government's
trying. I'm confused. I'm just trying to
I
catch up.
say
to
the
you.
government's money, the taxpayers' money,
all
which
right.
the government has
So-
control of.
Yeah.
Now
I
you're
mean,
spending
generally
somebody
there's
else's
a
money.
couple
Let's
other
say
things.
you're
Do you have a
spending your
driver's license?
boss's money. You're out to lunch
Yeah, well,
on
that doesn't
a
matter.
expense account,
There's
but you're
quite a
spending it on
few
yourself.
issues we have that do require
You're
that.
very careful
but
that you
there may
get
be something else
good
as well. Let me
good
pull
things
you up
for
real
your
quick.
money.
I'm gonna put
Try
you
to
on
have a
hold.
good
Let's go
lunch
over to
and
the
pick
desk.
the right things, but you're not very much worried about whether you get the cheapest, spend all you want, and you'll be careless. Now, what happens when you spend somebody else's money on somebody else? You're a distributor of welfare funds. Well, you're interested in making your own life as good as you can, and most people have humane instincts and want to do the best they can, but you're not going to be anything like as careful in spending somebody else's money on somebody else. So there are 4 ways in which you can spend money.
Folks, that's one of the most important clips you will ever see about why there is a specific level of unaccountability that exists not solely in government, but you have a persistent problem in government because it's other people's money spent on other people. That's a hard thing to get over. You have to, that's why when you're in government, you have to hire the best of the best of the best of the best because you have to get over that natural impulse because it's not your money and you're not even spending it on anyone else. That's where you get clips like this. I was watching this clip this weekend, going through some show preparation material, and I saw this CNN clip pop up, and they're talking about spending as if it's their money. Like, hey, listen, there's a Sesame Street program in Iraq, and don't laugh, by the way, that's actually what this video is about. But there's this really valuable Sesame Street program in Iraq that, you know, terrorists may watch instead of terrorist material. So, okay. Well, what about that money back in the United States that had to come from people who had to pay it, who could have kept that in their business? Watch this clip from CNN. You'll see what I mean. And I'm going to play for you I'm going to show you a clip from the Wall Street Journal about this just amazing first month of Donald Trump and how this has hit. The winning has just caught everybody by surprise. Check this out.
I'm going to get to the economics. Come on, I gave you a chance for a great sound bite. You got and those soft power exercises make for great sound bites. But when you drill down, for example, on Sesame Street in Iraq, they often make sense. Joseph Nye from Harvard, who gets credited with the coinage of the word soft power, you know, you'd rather spend on that than bullets. But wait, you want to talk about
there was a terrorist attack in Iraq last month that killed 40 people. It's clearly not working. Soft power
so maybe
if there are terrorists, we need to kill the terrorists. We don't need to fund Big Bird and Elmo.
Impact employment norms.
You know, you probably feel like I do, that it's really hard to believe that a country that as great as America, that's $30+ trillion in debt. Do you have any comprehension of how big of a number that is in comparison to what we're talking about? The value grossly of every single thing we produce and then some. And we're discussing Sesame Street programs in Iraq. Folks, there's an opportunity cost to every dollar spent on things that don't focus on specific core functions of the United States government.
MEYER.
That this is a serious argument on cable television is tough to take.
Okay.
I've got a piece coming up for you next where it's starting to hit, even with some people who are not big fans of the Trump agenda on the political front early, who are starting to realize that there's a couple key components from this, what's happening right now. the first month. It hasn't even been, first 100 days, but it's a month of the first 100 days. That number one, the gold standard for action has now been set by President Trump. Folks, any other president, Republican or candidly Democrat too, is going to be expected to make big, bold change. Republicans in the past have kind of eased into it. You get the first 100 days, you get a couple EOs here and there, but there's been nothing like this.
You mean W?
And second, the do matters.
W4.
Well, I'd say second, the do matters because President Trump has done it, and he's even invited some court challenges that could, I don't want to say redefine the presidency, because the courts and others have redefined the presidency. The presidency was laid out in Article 2 of the Constitution, and we've gotten away from that. If the president can't fire people, then who can? Quick break, and I'll show you what I mean. Interesting piece by Kim Strassel. I've enjoyed her commentary.
I'm also going to send you a text.
But let's be honest, a lot of these people aren't huge MAGA people, which is fine. Like I said, I read their content, and I like to see what everybody's thinking.
Sending a text.
Folks, they want you to believe inflation is just an accident, but is it? Every time inflation spikes, your savings could shrink, your paycheck buys less, and just about everything from groceries to gas gets more expensive.
This guy's saying he did
is this just a coincidence, or is it
done
Federal
his
Reserve policy at work? You need to check out Playing with Fire, Money, Banking, and the Federal Reserve, a powerful new documentary from the Mises Institute. It examines how the Fed can manipulate money, fuel economic crashes, and enrich the elites at the expense of everyday Americans. For decades, the Mises Institute's been calling out the dangers of reckless government spending and the Fed's destructive policies, warning about the 2008 crash and skyrocketing inflation long before the mainstream media admitted there was a problem. It's a must-watch film the establishment doesn't want you to see. And right now, when you visit Mises.org/Bongino by May 31st, 2020.
It's not hard if you have a Gmail address. It's actually very easy. Just click sign in. It'll give you the option to either use a regular email address or a Gmail address. Gmail is just easier. But if you don't, you can use a regular email address. It doesn't ask you that many questions. It'll send you a confirmation email, just like YouTube. If you have YouTube, you usually have a Gmail address. But yeah, it's not hard to set up at all.
25. You can also claim a free copy of What Has Government Done to Our Money?
I can tell you Rumble has been improving dramatically over the last few months.
Classic book exposing how government mismanagement of money could be robbing you of your financial freedom. So don't wait. Go to Mises.org/Bongino now. Watch the film and claim your free book while supplies last. That's MISES, Mises.org/Bongino. And last sponsor today. During tax season, your sensitive info does a lot of traveling to places you can't control. Stopping off at payroll, your accountant or taxpayer, and countless other data centers on its way to the IRS. Any of them can expose you to identity theft because they all have the info on your W-2, just a ticket for criminals to steal your identity. No wonder the IRS reported that tax fraud due to identity theft went up 20% last year. You need LifeLock. They monitor millions of data points per second and alert you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, LifeLock's US-based restoration specialist will fix it, backed by the $1 million protection package. And restoration is guaranteed or your money back. So don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. They get LifeLock protection for tax season and beyond. So join now and save up to 40% off your first year. Call 1-800-LifeLock, use promo code Bongino, or go to lifelock.com/Bongino for 40% off. Terms apply. Back to the show. This is what I was talking about from Kim Strassel. What stood out in Trump's first month? And it's a series of comments from their opinion staff on this. And again, these aren't big MAGA people at all over there. They've actually been very critical of a lot of the Trump agenda. And, that's fine. Do your thing. You're certainly in a constitutional republic. We have freedom of the press and freedom of speech. You can have whatever opinion you want. I bring this up because for them to acknowledge the success of this first month, this is a bold new world of Republican presidencies where a standard's been set. Kim Strassel notes the president's public events tend towards the rambling. He's discursive, but that's how he is. But the press is mistaken to present his team as simply unruly. She says, consider this. A month in, the administration has a nearly full complement of confirmed cabinet heads. The border's under control. Criminals are being deported. The White House has issued nearly 80 executive orders targeting energy restrictions and bureaucracy, DEI, transgenderism, and censorship. It's dismantling Biden-era regulations and shutting down entire programs. The president's met with many foreign leaders and withdrawn from global entities. Congress is progressing on the president's tax reform. As I said before, there are two takeaways from this. You need to tattoo on your brain that are going to set the standard for Republican presidents going forward. Democrats may expect the same from a future Democratic president, but now I'm talking about the Republican side. The Republican side, they've generally kind of eased into the presidency a bit. There's always the 100-day agenda, but let's be candid. Even Kim Strassel's noting, there's never been anything like that. So it now sets a standard in the future that if you campaign on something, which, and no, but come on, most people don't take a lot of campaign promises from politicians seriously. It's sad, but it's true. You are now going to be expected in the first few months and first 2 years of your presidency until the midterms to get this stuff done and get it done quickly because Donald Trump has set a different standard for action. But second, which I brought up before the break, another important point. They're inviting a lot of court challenges, which is important because the presidency has been redefined away from the Article 2 role of the founders, that they laid it out in the four corners of the document. It's not hard. We have an executive. We have an executive whose role is laid out by the Constitution, who's had pounds of flesh taken away from them. Their power's been neutered. Independent agencies, bureaucrats acting as if they're the executive. I ask you this very simple question, and I ask the courts too. If the chief executive of the United States and our commander-in-chief of the military cannot remove personnel under him for reasons he lays out and we've done now, you've seen with the Doge, then who can? Are you
sure, Teresa? What's going on?
Telling me that the government bureaucracy is immune from accountability elsewhere? Let me ask you this. I get it. Congress, you have Article 1, obviously Article 2, Article 3, you have the courts. Congressional staffers, for those who dispute this on the Democrats' side, and you dispute it from the legislative branch, and you're saying as a congressman, the president can't do this. Can you fire staffers in your office? Well, of course I can. Well, if you can fire staffers in your office, Jersey Girl 51 will miss you, but feel safe with you in the FBI. Lazarus, I'm proud of you, man. You're going to Helen. You're going to exactly where you need it to be. Folks, we got to step up, man.
All right. This is glitching.
We all have to step up.
All right. He's reading chats and stuff now. I just wanted to hear his beginning of the show. Let's hold up here.
Ash Patel. What a glorious day it is. Let's take a look at that story. But before we dive into that, let's poke around and see what's happening out on the schedule, because there is a lot happening. Today, you can see this is the presidential schedule. It's Monday, February 24th. And we're ready for a brand new week, fresh new week. We're rounding out February here. That went fast. Woo. All right, we've got here, you can see 7:45 in the morning, and it's time for the French president, Emmanuel Macron, to come in and come join us here. And so he showed up. Apparently the president didn't didn't meet him when he got out of the car or something like that. I don't know if it was the official welcoming or what, or if he was just getting there to have a croissant or something. But Trump is greeting him today at 12:15. That's going to be the official, welcome ceremony. So he must have just been kind of getting dropped off. Then they'll do the big thing later today. Then he's going to be meeting with the French president, then bilateral meeting and lunch. Whoa. And then they're going to hold a press conference later this afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern time. See if there's any news there that we get into on the show. Probably not, but we'll see. So that's happening today. And, it's interesting. I was thinking about Joe Biden. I was like, where the hell is Joe Biden? Because we've seen some Kamala sightings. We've seen her at the grocery store. I think she went to a baseball game with Backhand Doug, whatever. But remember when we used to read these not long ago? And it would always say the president and the vice president. So like Joe Biden would bring in Kamala with him, especially in that final year when they were trying to elevate her stature, if you remember. So it's just interesting to see the difference, right? It's not the president and the vice president. It's just the president kind of doing the job. Don't need two. But what's also, where is Joe? Like we haven't heard from him or seen anything about the dude as far as I can recall. Like he's just gone, forgotten about. That's how much he was a non-entity, is how we see him in the aftermath of this. Like they even are dragging Kamala around, but Joe nowhere. So that's the presidential schedule. Let's see what C-SPAN has for us. And I think I might have closed that out when I was clicking around. But here it is the schedule. So Macron at the White House, that was earlier today. So got there, and then I think they'll do the official reception situation later. Supreme Court listening to oral arguments about a Texas death penalty case. Texas, they like the death penalty there in Texas. They're just like, oh, we're going a little bit too fast. So you know what that means. Whoa.
Yes, you do have a valid.
So we'll see what the Supreme Court does about that. You know where we stand on the death penalty. We've got the morning hour Trump, more Trump, Macron stuff. NASA has a news conference. Then their news conference is going to be noon my time, so 2 o'clock Eastern. For those of you who want to catch that before the show, hopefully it's done before the show. We've got then the House Budget Committee later this afternoon, and that is what they've got on the docket for us. Now, in the House of Representatives, today, not much. The rest of the week, Tuesday, looks like we're filling in. Wednesday, we're filling in. And let's see what's queued up for tomorrow. Today, not much. Just Veteran Affairs, Rules Committee later this afternoon. Tomorrow, bunch of stuff. So House Appropriations, Senate Homeland, confirmation stuff here. Someone to help Kristi Noem. More noms tomorrow. That'll be good in the Senate. The House has some hearings. Judiciary will be meeting. That's Jim Jordan. The crisis of undermanned federal courts. I see what that's all about. So they want to start stacking the courts, which I'm fine with. Let's do it. House Appropriations has an oversight hearing tomorrow too. And a bunch of stuff. So all of that is happening tomorrow, you can see. Kind of a slow start on a Monday. Probably a bunch of people hung over for whatever. So Judiciary also. 14th Amendment stuff coming up tomorrow. Entering the Golden Age. Yeah, this is all tomorrow. That is going to be jamming. So that's all tomorrow. So we'll get ready for that. And that's good stuff out there. In the Senate today, they said they're going to convene at 3 p.m. The Senate will vote on a motion to invoke cloture for Daniel Driscoll to be Secretary of the Army. And that's about it. Pretty light day there in the Senate. So, all right. So without any further ado, this has been what has been capturing the interwebs and presumably most of the FBI. FBI agents must be freaking out times 2 now. Kash Patel just got nominated and confirmed and sworn in to be the director of the FBI. Now Dan Bongino is going in as his number 2. Whew, they must be nervous. So here is how the announcement came down from the president. He said, "Great news for law enforcement and American justice. Dan Bongino,
so we're going to go ahead and just put the timer
a man
on
of incredible love and passion for our country, has just been named the next deputy director of the FBI by the man who will be the best director ever, Kash Patel. Dan has a master's degree in psychology from CUNY and an MBA from Penn State. He was a member of the New York Police Department, New York's finest, a highly respected special agent with the United States Secret Service, and is now one of the most successful podcasters in the country. It's true, something he is willing and prepared to give up in order to serve, which is a big deal, right? Many other podcasters would never do that. Like, hey, Sean Hannity, would you come over here and, do something like, well, you're a great American, but, I don't know if Sean would serve. I'm sure he would. But my point is, this is a big sacrifice to make when you're at Dan's level, to give that up and to go serve your country. I think it's an easy decision, right? If you're someone who gets a phone call from the president, like, okay, yes, sir, I'll be there. But it's also a major sacrifice, in order to make that change. And it's a sacrifice to his audience and to his listeners and to everybody who tunes into Dan to get some sense of direction and some clarity on what's happening out there. He will have to pause for a short period of time, go clean up the house. He'll come back. He'll be back soon, and he'll be back better than ever. So it's going to be well worth it. It's amazing. It says, working with our great new United States Attorney General Pam Bondi and Director Patel, Fairness, Justice, Law, and Order will be brought back to America quickly. Congratulations, Dan. Wow. So incredible. So Dan said, "Thank you, Mr. President, Attorney General Bondi, and Director Patel." And of course, that's just wild news because Dan knows everything. He's been covering it on his show. He knows where this stuff is, how to unpack it, and how to bring it to light so that there can be justice served upon the perpetrators of the maliciousness. Dan said an hour ago, "Help is on the way. I have a big announcement." I wonder what it is. Don't miss the show today on Rumble, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Watch here. And so, of course, we'll all be checking out what Dan has to say about his new position. Absolutely amazing news. Trump also posted this as a follow-up. Said, I forgot to mention this. He says, another aspect of the life of Dan Bongino that I think is very important. He has a great wife, Paula, and 2 wonderful daughters who truly love their dad. What an incredible job Dan will do. Amazing. Nice family, too. So that's exciting news. A lot of people are very happy about it. A lot of people at the FBI very unhappy about it. One person who's excited is Kash Patel. He said, "Tremendous news for law enforcement and the future of American justice. I am proud to welcome Dan Bongino as the next deputy director of the FBI. A warrior and lifelong public servant, Dan has dedicated his career to protecting this country, beginning with his time in the NYPD, where he served in one of the toughest precincts, the 75th, before spending more than a decade as a special agent in the United States Secret Service. His leadership, integrity, and deep commitment to justice will make him an ideal choice to help lead the FBI at this critical time. He's a cop's cop." With Pam Bondi as our new Attorney General, we are assembling a team focused on restoring public trust, upholding the rule of law, and ensuring justice is served. Dan is stepping away from an incredibly successful career. That's absolutely true. Because he believes in this mission. Together, we are ready to put the mission first. Incredibly successful. It's like, yeah, that's an understatement. I mean, it's incredibly successful, no doubt. It's still an understatement. Welcome aboard, Dan. The country needs strong leadership. I know you will serve with honor and dedication. So amazing news. Kash Patel, happy about it. Ron Johnson says, "We're going to miss Dan on the radio, man. But we're glad he's willing to help Kash restore credibility and integrity to the FBI." We know that Ron Johnson has spent a lot of time investigating and demanding answers from the corrupt FBI, in particular Christopher Wray. We saw how many times. In fact, it was Christopher Wray who snubbed Ron Johnson and Senator Chuck Grassley when they were there, saying, "Can you come back this afternoon, Chris Wray?" He said, "Oh, no, I need to use the FBI's private jet to fly 45 minutes home. We've got vacation. Sorry, Congress. I'll get back to you later." And he never did. So that was Ron Johnson. The AP fills in the gaps here. And a lot of people are calling Dan, podcaster now. Like that's a pejorative.
Be careful with
a lot
that
of people like Politico's like conservative podcaster, right-wing podcaster is going to run the FBI now. Right. Relax. He did other things before that, jerks. Dan Bongino, a former U.S. Secret Service agent who ran unsuccessful for office, see how they do that? And gained fame as a conservative pundit, has been chosen to serve as the director. Man, they're so sour. Yeah. And Dan also, and he parks like this. And you guys are just making stuff up at this point. Calm down. Trump announced the appointment Sunday night in a post, sent shockwaves throughout the entire X-verse, says the selection and Washington, D.C., no doubt about it. And he doesn't need to be Senate confirmed, by the way. Okay, so he doesn't need to be Senate confirmed. So the question is, when can he start? Like now? The selection places two staunch Trump allies atop the nation's premier, so-called, self-described premier, law enforcement agency. And it's raising alarms. That they could use the FBI to target adversaries. Well, if their adversaries broke the law by creating crimes to weaponize the government, then they should be prosecuted as criminals, whether they're adversaries or not. It's irrelevant. Bongino would serve under Cash, Trump loyalist who was sworn in recently, including by relocating, also, we covered this over the weekend on the Membo stream, relocating hundreds of employees from Washington headquarters, placing greater emphasis on crime fighting, and he's moving some to Alabama, putting a bunch of others back into the field, as we saw. Now, the deputy director serves as the FBI's second in command and is traditionally a career agent who's a loser, responsible for the Bureau's day-to-day law enforcement operations. The position does not require Senate confirmation. Aha! But Bongino, like Patel, has never served in the FBI, which is why they're qualified. Raising questions about their experience level. No, confirming their capability to reform a broken entity. The U.S. is facing escalating national security threats, and just wait. They're going to wait for something to happen because something always happens. Dan and Cash. If only they would have been Christopher Wray and John Brennan, we could have all lived, or whatever their story will be. Natalie Barra, president of the FBI Agents Association, the same losers who were suing, we covered their lawsuits, saying, we're so sensitive. We cannot have our names out there if we're going to be fired. Wrote an internal newsletter to members sent Sunday, before the selection, that Patel had agreed with her that the FBI deputy director should continue to be on board. Active special agent has been on the case, as has been the case for 117 years for many compelling reasons. Wow. Okay, so Cash got on the phone with this woman, Natalie Barra. She's like, well, you're new here, but I think that you should continue. All right, keep the number 2 the same forever, so that our special agents like the guy. But that didn't happen, obviously. So the two are now inheriting an FBI gripped by turmoil because they're all freaked out. They're like, man, we committed a bunch of crimes. What are we going to do? Bongino served on the presidential detail for Obama and Bush before becoming a popular right-wing figure, American figure, talks about American values and American principles. For a few years following Limbaugh's death, rest in peace, Rush, he was chosen for a radio show on the same time slot of the famous commentator, the coveted Rush slot. Bongino worked for the New York Police Department for several years in the 90s, joined the Secret Service, began doing commentary on Fox more than a decade ago. He had a Saturday night show at the network 21 to 23, hosted the Dan Bongino Show, very popular, one of the most popular according to Spotify. Ran for the Senate, Maryland, Congress for 14-16, moved to 15, lost the 3 races. During an interview last fall, Bongino asked Trump to commit to forming a commission to reform the Secret Service, called it a failed agency. So that guy should have been nowhere near you, said Bongino, when he almost got shot again the second time. During the same interview, Trump praised the Secret Service agent who saw the rifle pointing out of the bush. Patel and Bongino will succeed the two FBI leaders, Brian Driscoll and Rob Kissane, who have led the Bureau since the departure of Christopher Wray, who was appointed by Trump, held the job for 7 years, and got resigned on out of there. So wild developments. They must just be having a meltdown over there, which is good news because truth and justice are a-coming. This was Pete Hegseth sending congratulations. Huge congrats to my friend Dan Bongino. No better patriot or professional. Patel Bongino atop the FBI is pure fire. You better believe that, Pete. No doubt. You can see we got other folks out there in the cabinet who are commenting now. So this is Tulsi Gabbard, who also made an appearance over the weekend, hanging out on Fox. And so we've got Cash, we've got Dan, RFK Jr. We hear is now speaking out and coming up with new plans. Here's Tulsi, who's part of the Trump cabinet dream team, speaking over the weekend.
For too long, as you know, we've seen people in positions of great power tell us that, oh, well, you know, if we just violate your civil liberties and freedom a little bit, it's okay because we're trying to keep you safe. Yeah. Unfortunately, you know, we've seen this for decades. And the more our freedoms are eroded, the more the foundations of our democracy are eroded. So, you know, a lot of people talk about national security or security threats, but there's two components of that leaders have to really uphold, which is, yes, there's such a thing as a threat to physical security, but the threat to our freedom and our liberty must be balanced right alongside that threat to our physical security.
Right, I think, was it Ben Franklin who said something paraphrasing like, those who sacrifice liberty in the name of security deserve neither. Something to that effect. Because liberty is nothing you sacrifice for security. That's what you engage in when you're dealing with tyrants. So we had Tulsi out there. We also saw Jim Jordan over in Congress was talking about some reforms to some of the major programs like Medicare and Medicaid. We're following this conversation a little bit to see if the goalposts move on this, right? And it seems like they are moving a little bit, but we don't really have a concrete uniform movement. People are just kind of talking in circles about this. It's like, are you gonna cut Medicaid or Medicare? No, we're not going to touch it at all. You're not. No, not at all. Then the next interview, they're like, no, why would we ever touch Medicare or Medicaid? Obviously, we're not going to touch that at all, you know, unless it's wage, fraud, and abuse. Next question. You go, oh, wait, waste, fraud, and abuse is in there. What are you going to do? And then someone else comes out and says, well, it's just common sense. We're not going to do anything. We're never going to touch Medicaid, Medicare, or any of those other programs, except the common sense programs. So we're just following it along. Here's Jim Jordan joining in on that conversation.
But here domestically, because you guys got to get together on this budget deal.
Yeah.
The New York Times reports on the House version, the budget that Speaker Johnson has negotiated for the next decade calls for around $880 billion in cuts to Medicaid. That's in an effort to counterbalance a portion of the tax cuts. That scares people when they hear that. Where do we get $880 billion out of Medicaid?
The focus has been clear. The president's been clear. Waste, fraud, and abuse we're going to look at.
Is there enough of that to cover $880 billion?
Well, we're going to look to find that. I do think we're not looking to make cuts to Medicaid, but certainly work requirements are something that I don't view as cuts. Work requirements are just common sense. You're an able-bodied adult, and you're getting a benefit from the government. There should be some requirement that you do work or volunteer work or something. We have that in other parts of our government payment systems where people are getting aid from the taxpayer. I think that makes sense. So, look, our plan is pretty basic: cut taxes, cut some spending, help the national defense, and secure the border.
But here, domestic
makes sense there, Jim. But, of course, there will be many people who say, I just want free money. It's my money. I want it now. Maybe they'll file a lawsuit saying we're entitled to it. So that was Jim Jordan someone else who is capturing a lot of attention since President Trump came out and pre-endorsed him. He hasn't even announced he's running yet. And Trump's like, you're the governor. I endorse you. He's like, what? I was, going to announce it next week. You're announcing it now, Byron. You're the governor.
I say that athletes make the best politicians because there's no BS. They don't mince words, and they just get it done.
Why play around? At this point, people are sick and tired of that. I was sick and tired of it when I was just a guy in finance watching politics and trying to figure out politics. And I was really frustrated with why is everybody meandering? Just get to the point. Just do the thing. Right. And I think, you have leaders in our country, obviously President Trump, our current governor, Ron DeSantis, so many others who just get to the point. And that's really the leadership that I think people are looking for. And so, our state's going to need another governor in a short amount of time. And we'll see how this goes.
I say that athletes make...
So there is MAGA reorientation happening. They call it political realignments when the country just has a wave or a sweep one direction or another. And when we've got this constant stream of high quality candidates coming in who are able to clearly articulate a vision for America, it is an exciting time to be here. All right. So good stuff on that one. Now, let's talk a little bit about this Elon email that came out over the weekend, because we're going to have a follow-up today on the show. I'm going to get my hands on the lawsuit, but they're actually suing over this email. But there was just a ton of stuff happening over the weekend, and it was pretty dang hysterical. So I wanted to share some of this with you. Now, the AP is rendering strangely, but the Elon email is causing serious panic across the federal government. You can see he sent an email over the weekend saying, you better respond with 5 bullet points of what you've done over your time here, because it is important and imperative that we, one, know you exist. He said many people aren't even checking their emails. They're just dead accounts because people are over on TikTok all day or whatever. And so you got to respond. Number 2, it's not that complicated to just articulate a couple key points of accomplishment that you've been able to achieve. So that email went out, and it's because Trump told him to get more aggressive, as we saw in his post. But here is what the latest reaction is. Confusion and chaos looming. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees beginning their work week on Monday. They've got a deadline tonight. Explain their accomplishments or risk losing their jobs. Now, Musk's unusual demand has faced resistance. There have been other responses, and I saw Kash Patel, Rubio, Noam, Pentagon. They're saying, don't answer that, right? Don't answer. I don't want to don't tell anybody what you're doing for security reasons. And so they said, don't comply with that for now. And they say, do not comply. But it was actually, some of them were saying, wait until you got further guidance from your superiors. Lawmakers in both parties says that the mandate may be illegal, and unions are threatening to sue, and they are suing, as we'll cover that lawsuit. So that came out, and here is a little bit more backstory on this, because Trump even said this. He got this message from Elon. Elon sent the email, said, make up 5 things. Looks like Elon posted this like on Grok, right, the AI. He said, make up 5 things I accomplished at work this week that they can't really verify. I work for the government, so keep it brief, right? So this is what the AI came up with. Like, this is all you had to do, is just come back out and send this in response in your email. Says, this is what I did. I streamlined a filing process. I cut a retrievable time by 20%. I briefed a senior official on a classified project. I got a nod of approval. I debugged an internal database. And that was slowing queries. I drafted a memo that sparked a new interdepartmental initiative. That's a good one. Conducted a discrete security audit, flagging 3 overlooked risks. Okay, so a bunch of like meaningless stuff. And Elon's like, that's all you had to say. All right, like literally all you had to send. He said, it's not complicated. Okay. Elon said, look, consistent with Trump's instructions to be more aggressive, all federal employees will shortly receive an email requesting to understand what they've done last week. Failure to respond to this email will be taken as a resignation. Afuera. Said, proud to say I once had to send Elon an email detailing what I had done and I was planning to do. His reply was, sounds good, carry on. It ain't that hard, send the email, says Tesla Thomas. Elon said, yeah, it's a very basic pulse check. Just want to make sure you're alive. Somebody's checking your email. But what unfortunately many of them were doing was this. You can see here. Cried about Trump, cried about Elon, made it into the office for once,
I've seen that.
read some emails, cried about Trump and Elon some more. Womp. And made it into the office is like a big one. So congratulations, you did a part of your job. Most of them were out protesting. But this is accurate. Could have responded to that. I mean, well, at least they're honest. Keep their jobs because they're honest. Senator Tina Smith wrote this. She called it the ultimate dick boss move from Elon Musk. Okay, so these Democrat senators, she's from Minnesota. Look at her potty mouth. Somebody needs to wash her mouth.
I have to do that all the time.
Any better? Look at this woman. She's got a double dick post in here. Look at this. This is the ultimate dick boss move from Musk, except he isn't even a boss. He's just a dick. Unbelievable from her. A senator from Minnesota. And then Elon, I think, responded, "What did you get done last week?" Nothing. She had a team of people come out and whoa, and she's dropping the a-hole word too. She says, I bet a lot of people have had an experience like this with a bad boss, or I don't know, any boss who manages anything. Do you have to report to your boss at all? Of course you do. There's an email in your inbox on Saturday night saying, prove to me your worthiness by Monday or else. She says, I'm on the side of, I guess, the workers, I guess useless workers who can't even respond, not the billionaire a-hole bosses. Wow. So that's exactly why Elon needs to come in here and just clean house, because people like this, she's like, well, I'm on the side of the workers who refuse to be accountable for what they're hired to do. Is that what you're talking about? Well, they're civil servants, so they're beyond questioning. All right. Thank you, Tina. Just constant potty mouth Tina. Very, very unbecoming of a senator. But all right. So that's what she posted. And then we saw Elon is explaining this is a very trivial task. It's not even complicated. Okay. Jeffrey Tucker said this in an email to all federal workers, requesting an email report on 5 tasks is completely conventional in the service industry when there's new management. It's only causing screams and panics because it's the government, and the government isn't wanting to be accountable. This is a common thing, okay? There are many methodologies like the Scrum when you're programming, right? There's many different methodologies to this. And you often report, right? You set up chats. You gamify your productivity. You use CRMs. You have tasks. You do all of these things. It's not complicated to report to somebody, hey, I'm new here. Can you just give me an update on what you're working on every day until I get up to speed with what you do around here? Great. Thank you. It's ridiculous. So while all these cuts are happening, while all this accountability is underway, you can see people like Senator Susan Collins are like, look, we might be losing some money. And so we're very concerned about the mass firing of federal workers. And look, she says, I'm very concerned about the impact on the state of Maine. And the Republicans are not immune from any of this grift. When she says state of Maine on everything from our national parks to biomedical research, those are the things, that's the pork. She's concerned about her pork. I'm not going to be able to deliver the pork up to the rest of my state to have all of my voting blocks come and feed like fat little piggies. Although that would be piggies eating pork. Pigs eat their own self. Are pigs cannibals? I don't know. But so this is a big problem, she says. Okay, my pork is going to be cut out. And then where my donos, many Democrats, I would say, where are they going to come from?
The impact of the federal firings had on Maine, Senator. How would you characterize the impact on the firings?
I'm very concerned about the impact on the state of Maine on everything from our national parks to biomedical research. So this is a big problem.
This is a big problem because all the pork is going to be gobbled up. And she's from that same state from that other loser Maine governor. We will see you in court. They're under federal investigation from the Department of Education for violating the law. But that was Susan Collins. We also have another squishy Republican on the other side. What is it with the north, far north? Is it cold up there? Maine and Alaska. We got Collins and Murkowski, who are very upset about their pork being cut. Doge cuts and firings are detrimental to our home state of Alaska, detrimental to your power base, perhaps. Lisa, here's what Murkowski said.
There's concern about being able to be ready for the wildland fires that we experience earlier and earlier every year. National Park Service, the abrupt terminations that we have seen for those has really been detrimental. If you're going to have a reduction in forces and let people go because you have too many employees, you have redundancy, there's bloat in it, we get it, whatever. But you do not disrespect those who have worked hard, who have done good and honorable public service by suggesting that somehow or other, after 18 years of good performance, now it's shoddy performance, and you're going to have that black mark on your record. And so there is a way that you do this with dignity and respect for your federal employees.
All right. So as usual, it's not really the policy or the outcome. It's about how. It's about the feeling. It's about respect and dignity and understanding. It's like, shut up. We've been doing that for decades. All right. The reason you people in the Senate have not been able to make a dent in the federal bureaucracy your entire life, Lisa, you've been in there for decades, is because of this type of pansy garbage.
Heading over, guys. Come over.
And I'm not for intentionally